So this absolute magnificent piece of equipment here is the kettle hat. Now if you were a knight fighting on the front lines, the kettle hat may have not been the best idea, as you can see, my face is still horribly vulnerable to being penetrated by giant members such as this arrow. However, what the kettle hat does excel at is being a great budget option for the time, as by the time this thing came into use in the late 12th century, it was law in countries such as England that you had to own a helmet in case you were called up to military service. The kettle hat was the perfect option for those who didn't know when they were going to be fighting, as it provided a decent level of protection and it was cheap as chips. The magnificently wide brim will protect us from strikes from above, say from a sword, from a cavalry. It strikes a helmet, hits down onto the brim, and by the time it hits our very weak shoulder blades, most of the force from the blow has been dissipated into the helmet. And underneath the helmet I'm wearing an arming cap, although I do look like a really fashionable granny, and that will absorb the blow further before it reaches my skull, so my skull won't get caved in, although in the morning I might have a really mean headache. And the wider brim was also extremely useful for when there's lots of threats from above, say when you're besieging a castle and there's lots of high places that enemies can fire down on you. And now they fire down on you, and instead of hitting your heart, the arrow hits the brim and it bounces off and you just laugh in the face of your enemy. These helmets would have been excellent for someone who wasn't fighting on the front lines, say a spearman with a giant shield so his face was protected by giant members, or an archer who needed their vision to see the target. Over time these things did get more plates to become more reinforced, and you could also wear it with a chainmail aventail, but I'm not sure why you'd want to hide this magnificent granny cap. I look fantastic. And it's called a kettle hat because it literally looks like a giant cooking pot, with kettle being the word for cooking pot before it was cooking pot. So when this wasn't protecting my head against an angry axeman trying to twat my skull in, I could cook my stew in here. It is also slightly heavy. I think on the website when I bought this it said 1.6 kilograms, and I think you can get heavier ones at 3 kilograms, but if you wore this all day, I'm sure your neck muscles would be absolutely ripped. Unfortunately though for the kettle hat, it did eventually fall out of fashion when open-faced bassinets and open-faced sallets were a thing, but the British did bring it back during World War I with their Brodie helmets, because the British obviously know a bit of fashion, as you can see by me wearing this shirt and my fantastic granny hat.